Welcome all to the William & Mary versus Navy dual meet brought to you by Virtius live from Williamsburg, Virginia. I'm your co-commentator, Ian Creelman, a 2021 graduate of the tribe, and I'm joined today by James Marden. This is William & Mary's alumni meet and actually a double duel with the women's team. You can catch their stream on Virtius's website as well, but on the men's side, we have a great one in store for you today. Currently ranked 9th is the Navy midshipman to take on 11th William & Mary tribe. Just based on highs and averages this season, the midshipmen are definitely favored to win this one. They have a high of 314.6 to the tribe's 313.5, so a bit of a gap there, but not an insurmountable one, and an average of 309.3 to the tribe's 304. But that's what I love about the theory of competition. You never really know what can happen, and we're excited you can join us today, and really excited to get into the action. James, why don't you introduce yourself to the fans for us?
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I'm James Marden, a 2020 grad of UIC and former floor and high bar guy over there. Yeah, really excited to see this meet today. As Ian said, there's going to be a super tight matchup between Navy and William and Mary. Navy is slightly favored based on the statistics, but we got William and Mary here at home, and it looks like a pretty solid crowd there. And let's see if that can push it to be, in their favor today.
Uh, Thanks, James. With only 2 meets left, a little bit context on what I expect this meet. William and Mary is going to be looking to put up a big enough score to help their 3-score average and lock them into NCAA team qualifiers. They have Army and Greenville pretty close on their tail, who also have a couple of meets before conference championships. It's a really tight race for those last few spots between the remaining teams, and today is an important one for William and Mary. Navy, on the other hand, currently, as I mentioned, in 9th, I would say is pretty much guaranteed to go to NCAAs as a team, so they may not be putting up their full lineups in order to rest some of their top guys for championship season. That's one of the interesting things about college gymnastics. If you're locked into that spot, you might want to rest some guys because peaking at championship season is really the goal. And what I mean by championship season is NCAAs, conference championships, and USAG finals. For the tribe side, I'd probably be on the lookout for Luke Tully. He's a freshman with a phenomenal breakout season so far. Junior Mark Fu, sophomore Evan Wilkins, and junior Ricky Pizem. They're some of the tribe's top point scorers across a few events, and I'd be looking for them to put up some exciting routines today. James, on Navy side, who do you got?
And Navy's pretty stacked all around, but I definitely have my eye on Brian Solomon, a sophomore who's been putting up some big scores all year, and their only all-around score that's been put up this year. Definitely another big one to look out for is Isaiah Drake, national team member, one of the most solid performers across several events with their highest individual score of the year on a few different events. But like I said, they're pretty stacked all around. I would definitely watch out for their high bar lineup, where they're ranked number 7 in the nation, and rings where they're ranked number 9. But overall, Navy's just a really solid team through and through. So every guy on here and every routine that we see today should be pretty interesting, good to watch.
Sweet. Looks like we're gonna probably get into the routines here in a little bit. William Mary starting on floor, Navy starting on pommel horse. There's typically 2 formats that dual meets go into. You either rotate on the same event and just alternate teams, or you do this kind of paired event situation where each team is on floor and pommels, and then I actually forget the other ones, but it looks like they're going to be going with the alternating format today. So up first for William Mary is Nico Greenlee. For floor
And
specifically, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it just throws off the scores a little bit when you have this alternating Olympic format like we're gonna have today. But we're getting started here with floor. Back to you, Ian.
For William and Mary, they're compared to their team score, it's a pretty strong event for them. As I mentioned, they're 11th as a team and 9th on floor, so they're definitely going to be looking to put up a score that can help them push their team score higher, and they have a pretty solid lineup, 4 guys that are going to be looking to do that today. I'd keep an eye out for Evan, as I mentioned on this rotation. He is the tribe's top point contributor, followed closely by Luke Tully. Wilkins is putting in low to mid 13s and is definitely going to be looking to replicate that today.
Yeah, and you can already see a really solid start here from Nico. A couple big tumbling passes to start it off, and then some nice non-tumbling work there continuing through the routine. quite a few consistent, clean landings here, and some pretty high value skills mixed in as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see a guy like this with a routine as packed with difficulty as the leadoff guy. I mean, sometimes you'll see the leadoff guy just be a really consistent, maybe lower scoring routine, but Nico with a beautiful stuck dismount certainly seems to be pushing the difficulty up for the tribe.
Yeah, that was a fantastic way to start. I mean, he had all of that cleanliness, execution, confidence you like in leadoff guy, but also some difficulty there. So that should push that score pretty well, especially for a leadoff score.
Yeah, agreed. Up for Navy on pommel horse, we have Jonah. And
Pommel
pommel
horse
horse
always, yeah, always a tough one,
yeah,
especially to be leadoff guy coming in, especially at an away meet here. But Jonah looks pretty solid, swinging pretty smoothly through the beginning of the set here.
yeah. I feel like you can always tell a really good pommel guy by the confidence and speed of their swing. Like he set his rhythm at the start of the set, and it was just consistent all the way throughout. I mean, you saw no bobbles there. Really, really clean all the way through. That's a great leadoff guy. Navy's certainly happy with that, and I mean, both teams starting strong here. I'm going to be looking to keep that momentum going through at least the event and certainly the entire competition.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good precedent for both teams to set, just coming in solid, clean sets to start off this meet. And yeah, like I said, I mean, especially away, coming in first event, you may not even want to put like your kind of weakest up on pommel horse to lead off there because you really need to set a good tone for everyone. And that's a really solid routine from Jonah there to get things moving for the midshipmen.
Yeah, leadoff guy. I mean, even if it is a lower difficulty set, it's such an important position to pick the right guy for. I mean, I certainly don't envy the job of coaches to find that guy to fill that slot. Um, I was leadoff guy in a couple of my events, and I trusted my teammates should I fall to pick up the energy and really reset, but it was never a great feeling to set a poor tone for the rotation.
Not exactly. I mean, it's being a leadoff guy is so much more than just the score that you put up there. It's also the energy that you bring into that, the consistency that you need to show. Um, and one of those interesting things about lineups, I mean, kind of, you see it a lot in women's gymnastics. You sort of start with the lower difficulty and you just kind of build up as it goes on, trying to stack those scores. But nowadays, I feel like there's a bit more emphasis on just getting the right people in at the right times, getting someone, maybe if you have a more inconsistent guy, putting someone in front that you know is going to have a good, clean hit to set the next guy up for success, just because that energy can kind of stay with you. Even though you are supposed to be kind of competing individually, it's definitely still a team sport in that regard.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, James, and I think it's a big difference between collegiate gymnastics and junior gymnastics. I mean, junior gymnastics is such an individual competition. There isn't even a team score, but when you're competing in college, you are part of something so much larger than just your score. You have your teammates to think about, you have NCAAs to think about, and it really does carry a strong impact. And I think it makes the sport even more fun having that team dynamic.
Definitely. Speaking of which, heading over to the second routine here for William and Mary, it's Connor Barrow.
Honor Bearer is a freshman, and if you're following the tribe, you know that he just had an unbelievable vault rotation at the Springfield meet, I believe. He is now tied for second in the all-time William and Mary records as a freshman, which is not an easy task to be done, but he certainly has the power to back up that kind of title. And you can see here he's got some big skills starting off, and a pretty, I would say, unique skill called a VC, which is his non-acro, but definitely taking a breath there, getting ready for his next passes.
And really remarkably clean lines throughout everything here. A couple of tough landings there, but twisting looks super clean in the air. A lot of control, but then kind of bouncing around a little bit. And that's one of the things I think as a freshman, especially when you're young, getting your feet under you. These floors tend to be a lot harder than those JO floors, and you can feel it when you're taking those landings. But not feeling any difficulty on the dismount there. Really nice stuck double tuck to finish things off for Connor.
Yeah, great reset for him. I think 2 passes there. He kind of bobbled around, but he had to fight for those final tenths. For the midshipmen, we have Matthew on pommel horse, second guy. Again, setting that rhythm a little back, trying to fix his swing, but Once you find that rhythm as a pommel guy and you can lock it in, like the event becomes so much easier. Not that I was ever able to do it. I stopped pommels the moment I got to college, but Matt here is looking like he set his rhythm pretty well.
Yeah, a little bobble at the beginning there, but like you said, picked it back up. He looked like he had a little bit of a break, bending those hips a little bit, but then recovered the shoulders pretty well and picked it up into that travel sequence there really smoothly. So, yeah, like you said, hitting your stride on pommels is really the main thing. And same here. I was never a pommel horse guy. I think I actually stopped training horse the moment that I could when I was still in JO. I knew I wasn't making nationals my senior year, so I don't think I touched a pommel horse ever since.
Yeah, and I
But
mean,
thank goodness I didn't.
who would have thought pommel horse was the event to bring men's gymnastics to the forefront? I mean, if you're a longtime gymnastics fan, even if you aren't, you've probably heard the name Steven Nedorosek, pommel horse specialist. One of the most hated events probably across the men's gymnastics community, but it brought the scene to life over this past
Yeah.
Olympic cycle. Never would have thought. Wouldn't have been my guess.
Never, no. I mean, I feel like a few years ago, I don't know if it was joking or not, but there was some talk about, oh, let's get rid of pommel horse. It's too dumb to watch. People don't understand it. The crowd doesn't get it. Not good for casual fans, and just completely incorrect as it seems. I mean,
Yeah.
Steven brought so much light to this sport, put a huge, wave of new interest into it because of his pommel horse, and also his fantastic personality
Yeah, Dancing
and
with the
showmanship as
Stars.
well.
Yeah, no, I love it. And hey, I would have signed that petition in all honesty. I do not like pommels as a competitor.
Nope.
I do love to watch it
Mm-mm.
because it's not something I could ever do, but I would have been wrong to sign that petition for sure.
Apparently, yeah, I'll admit it. I was incorrect on that one too. But here we are. Now we see a few guys coming up with some big scores here. Two scores above 13 on pommel horse to start things off for Navy.
Yeah.
It's pretty big for a horse.
Yeah, those are really solid pommel horse scores. I mean, you're definitely looking for 13s kind of everywhere in this code, and to get them on pommel horse is phenomenal. But up for Willie May, we have Luke Tully. That's the freshman, a name you'll probably hear a lot of today. I'm pretty sure he is competing all around, so that'll be 6 routines we see from him, and he's got some experience under his belt now. He's been competing a lot of events for the tribe this season, and you can see some confidence in his step even as a freshman. That's as James mentioned, that's a tough thing to do. Freshman collegiate season is as much of a mental game as it is a physical game, and Luke is showing here at least no signs of wavering. But let's hope commentators curse doesn't undo that on this pass.
Some really nice passes here from Luke, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of good stuff. Double front, whip 2.5, double full to full layout. I mean, big connection bonuses, a lot of D skills coming together, and really clean, solid execution, too. So this is a really nice routine so far.
Probably a dismount here, double back, small hop, good controlled landing, but he should be proud of that one. That's a great showing out of Luke and what we know he can do. Tribe is
Yeah.
Both teams right now are really flowing on all gears.
Yeah, this is just exactly the matchup we were talking about. I mean, it's pretty head-to-head in the scoring right now. We're going to see how tight this meet is. Like Ian and I were talking about at the beginning. I mean, these two teams are pretty much locked in, in terms of the average and high scores, maybe with a little bit of an advantage, but not by so much. Let's see how that plays out.
Yeah, I would say Navy being able to keep pace with the William Mary on floor is probably a good indication. They're going to switch, so we may start to see some separation, but right now we're a 10th apart. This is about as close as it can get other than a tie.
Pretty much. But another nice hit for Navy there. Daniel putting up a solid set. Another little break kind of in the middle there with that flop sequence. We'll see what the judges do with that, if they count that full flop sequence the way that he intended for it to be, and how that might impact his score. But a pretty solid recovery, picked up the momentum again, and made it through the rest of a clean and solid set.
Yeah. So as James mentioned, Jonah 13.15, as you can see on screen. Matthew a 13.05. We'll see what the judges do with Daniel's score. And then William and Mary sitting at a 26.3. And the next person on pommels is Brian Stallman. As the anchor, you'd expect him to have a pretty solid set, and he is currently leading the midshipmen as the top point scorer on that event. But switching our
Yeah, and
attention
that's
to...
just a
Go ahead.
Just a sophomore too. I mean, that's something that's pretty tough to do. Being a pommel horse guy, or being an all-arounder and having such a high pommel horse score is a really good tone to set for Brian there, with a few years still left ahead of him.
And Luke Tully comes in with a huge 13.7. I mean,
wow,
just 2/10 higher than the next start value, but just so clean on all those lines, fighting for every landing, and a stuck dismount always helps. Anchoring for William & Mary is Evan Wilkins. He is the top point scorer for the tribe, so probably the highest difficulty. And if he keeps it on his feet, keeps it clean, we should continue to see this meet stay interesting. Big combo pass to start. Great. I mean, that's a phenomenal combo pass to lead off this set.
Yeah, absolute world-class pass there. Coming back with the full twisting double layout, super nice as well.
I'd love to ask him why the full twisting layout second. I mean, that seems like it should be first. I mean, a bigger skill than I was ever able to do, but that just seems like it requires so much power versus his front full punch double front.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very individual, the construction. I mean, you can see guys who do funky things like mount with a full twisting double tuck and then come back with a full twisting double layout. I mean, it's kind of whatever feels right to you. Yeah. But clearly it's working for Evan here.
Yeah, let's not brush over this scale, a requirement in the new code. First time in probably decades at this point. Half in, half
nice way to finish up there. Yeah. Wow, really solid set, like you said, coming in. But kept on his feet, super high difficulty, and pretty clean in the air as well. So that's going to probably be a pretty solid score for Evan there.
Yeah, great floor rotation for the tribe. And it looks like we are getting a little bit of separation between the first two events. William & Mary ahead by 1.2 right now. Looking at Daniel's start value, which is a 4.2, I would think they didn't give him credit for that travel sequence that you were talking about, James. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think I mean, just looking at what the other start values were and what he had there, I would assume that they gave him kind of a broken up version of that flop, probably giving him a B instead of a D value on it, which just lowers that a couple tenths, plus the deduction that he incurred for that kind of awkward step down and then the hips and everything through there. And now we're back to Brian Solomon, who's starting off pretty nice and clean here on pommels. Nice travel sequence into the flop and then back traveling again.
Yeah, moving up and down the horse, using the whole thing. A little bit of a struggle on that dismount. I'm surprised. It looks like he had the strength for it, but maybe
yeah. Looked a little weird. Kind of looked like he maybe got kind of hung up or something and had to tuck his way up. Kind of a weird way to fight through a dismount. Usually you see guys either sort of pressing it or flopping off to the side. That was kind of a weird way to mess up a dismount, actually, something you don't see very often.
Yeah, and what do you think about this? I would think that maybe that's better than using strength, because in that dismount it's supposed to swing, so if you do use any form of strength, the judges do have the option to just not give you credit for it, right?
Yeah, in terms of a total score thing, you're absolutely right. I mean, you could, if you do a quote unquote press dismount, as some people refer to that swing hand, yeah, you can get absolutely zero credit and up to a point off in deductions with that, even more. So what he did there, salvaging the swing, even with the knee bend, is still the right call, but it's definitely not going to help his score. Rather than doing it perfectly, obviously.
No, I agree. And if you do press it, you got to make the tough decision of talking to the judges and seeing if you just redo the skill and take the 1.0 fall, or just don't get credit for your dismount. And I mean, that's certainly never a fun moment. You're standing there at the end of your set, not moving your feet, looking for your coach to give you the thumbs up or thumbs down, and then deciding if you're gonna redo it. I've been there. It's a stressful moment.
No, that is just a really tough situation to be in. And then you have to say, okay, now I have my 30 seconds counting down. I got to rechalk a little bit and hope that you have the energy to go back up and do it again without deduction. And hope that it's worth it. It's
all your adrenaline, the moment your feet hit those mat, it's just like, okay, I'm done. I can think about my next event or move on mentally. And then, nope, you gotta readjust and get back into that mentality. It's a tough spot to be in. But looks like they did give Brian credit. Surprised to see he's got a 4.3 start value. I might have missed maybe a skill in there he didn't get credit for, but He gets a 12-1 from the judges, a little bit high in deductions with that 7-8 execution score. Evan Wilkins' score comes in at a 13.65, actually just behind Luke Tully's 13.7. So for event total scores, we have a 53.65 for William Mary and a 50.9 for the midshipman. So, I mean, that's a 2 point. I'm not good at math, but 2.5 point difference after the first rotation, and I don't think that's insurmountable. A couple of tough final sets for the midshipmen, but they're going to be going into floor now. A great rotation for them. Let's see here. They are ranked 9 on floor. Oh no, that's William Mary.
Ranked 10 on floor. So yeah, it's just
Thank you.
behind the tribes ranking here, but it should score better for them than pommel horse, I would assume. I mean, just how scores typically go here. Um, but it also has to do a lot with the hit rate. I mean, floor can be, yeah, floor tends to be a high scoring event, but when it goes bad, it can go real bad too. And if you have a couple of falls in there, and nowadays with all the scores counting, even one fall can be the difference between a really solid team score and something that's really not so good and maybe sets you back a little bit in your total.
Yeah, and I mean, even to that point, 4 up, 4 count. That's different in this quad where it was 5 up, 5 count. You had a little bit more flexibility with maybe a score that wasn't as high as you wanted it. But we see for the midshipmen, even two, I would say, hit sets because they didn't fall can have a real impact on your event total. They were probably looking for another 8 tenths higher, which would have put them even closer to William Mary. But those are the dynamics of gymnastics. Like you have everything planned out, and there are just some things that can't go your way. But a good rotation for William Mary on floor. They're headed into pommels, and I will say some color. It's a bit of a rough rotation for William Mary this season. They are ranked 14th on that event, so quite a bit lower than their team standing of 11th. And I would say this is an event that they're just looking to not hurt their team score. Floor is an event where they're looking to push difficulty and get that score up and chase that 4 score average. But Pommel Horse, they're looking for 4 clean hit sets to just keep themselves in the running.
Yeah, and I mean they definitely put a good momentum in coming from floor now. So hopefully that can carry over into pommel horse and at least maintain some ground on Navy, even if it does set them back a little bit. Hopefully this is still going to be a good enough rotation. They stay on, they hit some clean sets, even if you don't have the biggest difficulty. Just getting through those routines, keeping them clean, keeping them consistent. That can be enough on pommel horse
Yeah.
just keep moving.
And I don't have the lineups are here. So for William Mary, we have Ricky Pizem, Jared Neumann, Sam Smith, and Gavin. I'm not going to try his last name. But for the midshipmen on floor, we have Champagne, Viziana, Gurovic, we're going to see again, and Thurlo Lam.
It looks like we're already getting started here with William Champagne on floor.
Yeah, it looks like he is
A
in the
little bit of
middle
a
of his
hop on
set.
that. Yeah, either that or a really weird warm up, but I think this is
Yeah,
his set.
or he's winning warm-ups for floor.
Yeah, that's one of those weird things. What do you do in warm up? What do you not do? And I was always a very low key warm up guy. I didn't want to do any of my real skills if I could avoid it. Keep my ankles and knees as fresh as they could be because they were going to take a beating during that set.
Yeah, and I to your point about it being individual, I think warm up is like something you kind of just figure out over time. I mean, in JO, it's a timed warm up. You either warm up all 6 and then compete all 6, or you do what's called Capital Cup, where you warm up and then compete. But in college, you just have 90 minutes to warm up all your events. So if you're only doing one event, like you have a lot of downtime. Um, and it's can
Yeah.
be interesting. I mean, we caution freshmen all the time to like don't win warm up, do only what you need to do, and I think it always takes one hard learned lesson for them to realize that their seniors are right. I mean, I fell
Yeah.
victim to it.
Oh, I definitely fell for that as well. Like the first time I had only high bar in a meet, it was a home meet. So I warmed up as hard as I could for 90 minutes and then sat there for 2.5 hours. And then I was completely ice cold, burnt out from my warm up, and had to go back up and try to hit a set last minute. Not a great experience, but you learn that. You learn the tricks of the trade as you go.
Yeah. Up for the tribe on pommels, we have Ricky, and it's very interesting. Ricky is a really good high bar swinger. To see him hit a pommel set like that is, I think it's something pretty special. You don't typically see those two events in combination. You'll see like floor and vault, rings and P bars, but high bar and pommel is not one you see. So as leadoff guy, that's a good position for him to be in, and setting the tone. A little bit of wobbles here and there, just trying to fight for that swing, but it's a hit. It's what the tribe is looking for, and they're gonna keep rolling that momentum from floor and the leadoff guy through this event.
Yeah, and definitely a nice set for Ricky there. I mean, that had a bit more difficulty than I was expecting. Kind of came in a little bit slow at the beginning, but then had a few really nice travel moves in there that picked up some difficulty. Super nice on the dismount too, really popped that up, and yeah, clean set overall. So definitely something to be happy with as a first routine on horse.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what he comes out with.
Yeah. And of course, if you guys are watching on YouTube, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We keep an eye on it, so just drop anything in there that you want to know, and maybe we know it, maybe we don't.
William Champagne with a 13-2 on floor. Great leadoff, again above that 13 mark that we're kind of benchmarking things to today, and Dinola is gonna keep it going for the Shipman. Front full double front. You saw Evan Wilkins kind of do the same pass. Danilo didn't really have the power for it on this one, but resetting, going into an Arabian double, and put too much power into that one, but he taking a little bit of an easy side pass here and going to try and reset for the rest of it.
Yeah, and that's one of those tough things when you have a double flipping coming into connection. I mean, if you go front full, he looked like he kind of over-rotated the front full, actually, which then threw him forward and down into the double front. That's a hard thing to find that exact right spot on the first skill. Where do you want to hit your feet so you can pop into the second skill really effectively? And just barely missed that mark, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, your margin of error on a pass like that is just so small. A little under-rotated, a little over-rotated on the first skill, and it can have pretty drastic implications for what your second skill is going to look like.
Yeah, and same happened there on that 2.5. He managed to recover it with a front tuck out, but definitely not the skill he meant to do there. Finishes up with a nice double pike though, and yeah, although a tough first pass, managed to salvage the rest of that routine, stay on his feet, which that's, a lot of the resilience here, because you can let that score tank really hard if you let it get in your head after a missed first pass, but he managed to keep it together and put together otherwise a pretty solid routine.
Yeah, it can go sideways so quickly, and I mean, floor especially, because there's no fall and reset. Like you mentioned, you have 30 seconds when you fall off an event, and that applies for everything but floor and vault. And floor, you just kind of have to stand back up and keep going. You have no time to reset and get your mental right. So it requires a lot of fortitude to just keep it going and salvage what you can. So I mean, good on him, but it's tough to do.
Yeah. A really nice second set there for William Mary. Jared Neumann putting up a really nice routine, that nice flare work in the middle there, hitting the side travel and the Magyar as well. Really nice though, overall, super smooth lines, looked good.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where his start value compares to the rest of the lineup, because he is the top point contributor for the tribe on pommel. So to see him go second is pretty interesting. Typically you'll see the top point scorer go last because they got the biggest start value, the best set, are a good anchor to keep the momentum going, but coaches have made a decision to put him second, so I'm interested to see where that shakes out.
Yeah, and that can also have to do with consistency. I mean, if he's really consistent and you kind of want to bury someone maybe a little less consistent near the end of the rotation is also a strategy you can do. We, for a long time, had our top two pommel horse guys usually go 2 and 3 in a 5-man lineup, just because they felt more comfortable there and it was easier for them to go when it didn't seem like there was pressure on them. So could be that way, but either way, a super nice routine from Jared and probably going to be a pretty solid score coming in.
Yeah, always love to see that flare work. I mean, it's so pretty, and it's got such a nice line to it when you do them right. I mean, flares are one of those skills where the good ones look great and the bad ones are just not computable.
Yeah. No, that it's really one of those things where it's just it's absolutely 0 to 100. When you're doing a good flare, and you can just feel it. It swings so nicely. And probably in my opinion, one of the only redeeming qualities of pommel horse is the feeling of doing one nice, really good flare. Um, super nice and super nice to watch as well.
All right, up next for the midshipman, we have Daniel Gervich again, starting off with another big combo pass. I think that was a front full double front. Same pass his teammate just did, but he manages to keep it on his feet. And yeah, some really good tempo through this set into his Russians on floor.
Yeah, really solid start to the set there. And you saw kind of two similar passes from his previous teammate, but keeping them just that tiny margin of error when it comes to those punching passes. And it looks like Daniel's got some really good control here, coming with the 1.5 to tuck full down the side, also really nicely controlled.
Yeah, really.
And you might
really
notice this one thing that all the Navy guys are doing here is they're doing this half turn out of the scale, and that actually gives it a B value compared to the A scales that we're used to seeing from most of these competitors.
Almost got that Arabian double. What a great set. Great reset from Daniel Gervich. We saw him on pommels too. Floor and pommel guy, but really showing he's got the stuff for both events. Really great set from him.
Yeah, really solid stuff from him, and yeah, way to pick up the momentum there and just keep getting everything back on track. And we'll see their last routine from Benjamin Thurlow, who's their highest scorer, high and average for the year. High score coming up almost to a 14. So let's see if he can top that and break 14 this meet.
Next for the tribe on pommels, we have Sam Smith. And Sam is very tall. He's probably one of the taller gymnasts in the NCAA right now, which, again, kind of like flares, a tall gymnast line can either make them look unbelievable to watch, or it can, kind of highlight all the little angles that you might see. But he's setting into his rhythm here. He's got some big travel skills going on. Seems like he just misplaces his hands and has to come off. So now, as we mentioned, he's got 30 seconds to get back on the event before he starts to incur deductions. You can see head coach Mike Powell there talking to the judge, maybe about where he can restart or what skill he got credit for or not, but he's kind of burning time here.
Yeah, he's getting through that 30 seconds quick. It moves a lot faster than you would think, having to get back up on that event when you're not ready for it. It looks like he's going to pick up back here from it looks like the end of the horse. So he probably got credit for some part of that travel backwards. So rather than repeating it, he's just going to pick up from the end of it. Oh, actually repeating the full thing now. So getting credit for that. I'm going into his Russian sequence here.
Around Russian and around dismount. He goes.
Yeah.
I mean, good reset from him.
Yeah,
those last three sets were, those last three skills were well done. I mean, you can see him. He was telling his team, like, let's keep it going, just reset. I mean, that's a leader right there. He knows, he trusts his teammates to pick up the momentum and is keeping the energy high. He's not coming off the event with his head down and looking disheveled. He knows there's a job to get done, and he trusts his teammates to do it. So, I mean, you love to see that. You love to see that mental resilience, and they're going to keep it going into their anchor. But right now for the midshipmen, we have Benjamin Thurlow, again, anchor. He has their high score for the season, and we'll see what he can get done. Great combo pass to start.
A little bit shaky in the corner there. Looks like he almost jumped himself out of bounds. Something about this floor, maybe a little extra springy and kicking him around a little.
Back 2.5 side pass. We love that. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been seeing a lot more difficult side pass recently. When I was in the NCAA, you saw, back double full, back layout. I mean, guys are doing back 2.5s, back 1.5 punch front fulls. Like, they're trying to pack the difficulty in where they can, and I think it's more enjoyable to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of coming back to those days, like from the 2012 to 2016 era, where you were only able to do 2 passes down the middle. Then you had to go over to the side, and you kind of had to pack in difficulty on the edges and into that kind of V setup that a lot of people used to utilize. Then we went away from that for a bit, and now coming back to it again makes for some interesting construction and a lot of difficulty on those side passes, like you said.
Yeah. And I mean, that's further emphasized by the fact that you only have 8 skills now, so you can't you kind of need to pack it in where you can. You do a back layout on the side pass, and then you only have two more diagonals to pack in your difficulty. So they're really trying to get it where they can. And I mean, solid fight from Benjamin, a little bit of a hop on that dismount, but kicked out, really looking for that stick. So we'll see what the judges do with it. And up now for the tribe, we have anchored Gavin on deck.
He's hit some nice swing here,
Oh,
fighting
fighting.
on the one
Uh,
handle. Yeah. He had some really nice kind of, you see that angle between the hips and the hands. He was swinging up really high, really confident when he started. So super nice. Incurs very little deduction the way that he was doing it. It looked like something just went wrong with his hand placement there and kind of lost a moment and kind of buckled down onto the handle, which is just, yeah, rough way to fall. But hopefully, like Sand, he can pick it back up, finish with a solid set, and be able to still get something out of it.
and that's just one of the things that makes pommel so difficult. I mean, I said earlier, you lock in a rhythm for the entire set, and you can kind of keep that rhythm, but if it even gets a little bit off, pommels is one of those events where fighting clean and staying on is so difficult. Like one missed hand placement and your entire rhythm, your entire balance is now off, and you're almost starting to incur some type of form deduction as you try and fight for it. But Gavin here finishing up with his Russian dismount, um, saving what he can. Teammates coming to help him out, keep that energy up, but good fight from him, and it looks like we're gonna have Luke Tully in an all-around spot as fifth man. If that's right, his score won't count for the team, but it's just for him to keep competing and get that all-around score.
Yeah, and that's one of those things I feel like has been more common recently. I mean, when you only have four on the lineup, then you do need to put in a few more all-around spots. So someone like Luke, who maybe isn't the best guy on pommel horse, maybe in previous times would have made it on a 5 or 6 man lineup, but now it has to be in an all-around spot in order to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it just gives everyone a chance to get some recognition, or maybe even just practice on another event that they don't usually get to have a competition setting on. So hopefully, even though not counting for the team score, he can still do something to pick up the momentum and send William Mary into rings in a good headspace, ready to just continue on and make up some ground again.
Yeah, I mean, after Gavin, it's almost another opportunity to try and reset that momentum, as you mentioned. Even though he's not competing the team score, the team is definitely behind him, and if he hits a great set, they're gonna use that momentum where they can to roll it into rings.
Yeah, I think that's one of the one of those really nice things about having those either exhibition routines or all around routines is if they go well, you pick up the momentum from them. Everyone's really happy. You can use that, go on to the next event. If they don't go well, you can kind of just write it off as if it didn't happen, clear your mind and move on, and
Yeah, no,
hopefully don't let it affect you.
that's a great point. We're a very selective bunch over here in gymnastics. Use what can
Yeah.
help us and try and leave behind what can't.
Yeah, I think there's a quote from I forget who it was. I think it was Daniel Ribeiro, but I asked him one time about what's the best event to start on. He goes, the event you got assigned to start on. That's the best event.
Wow.
No matter what it is, you make up some excuse. Pommel horse, you're starting there, great, you get it out of the way early. Floor, awesome, you go in with a lot of energy. And there's some good thing you can take out of all of it. So no matter what, it's just about twisting it, making sure that it works for you, get that momentum going, and get your head right for it.
I love that perspective. Perspective is so much of the game, and I mean, all of these gymnasts are physically ready for these routines. It's so late in the season; they're not doing anything that they can't do that they haven't done a bunch of times, um, and it really just comes down to a mental game. So to that point, they're picking what they need and what they can use to help themselves, and kind of trying to leave everything else by the wayside. But Luke Tully's up to a rough start here for Pommel Horse, trying to reset. And I mean, falling on one of the first skills is tough because you know you got a whole set waiting for you when you get back on the event. But we'll see what he can get done here.
Yeah, even these 8 skill routines feel really long when you have to do them after coming off and resetting. A nice way to pick it back up here for Luke.
Fighting for
Looks like
it.
he's a lot more, yeah, he's a lot cleaner on the leather than he was up on the handles there. Seems more comfortable and finishes off actually pretty strong.
Yeah.
And we
So
see the
that
final
gives,
scores coming in, yeah, for the end of the second rotation here. It's actually a pretty close meet. We only got about a 2 point differential in total on these total scores.
yeah, what is that? About a 4 point swing from one event to the next. It was about a 2.5 point difference in the tribe's favor, and Now it's about 2 in Navy's favor. So that was a big swing. Pommel horses we mentioned for William Mary, they had to count 2 falls. You see Sam Smith's 11-1 and Gavin's 11-9. That's a pretty big point differential for what they were trying to do for hit sets. But going into rings, they're pretty strong compared to their team standing. They're 8th in the nation on rings, so this is an event where they can definitely look to improve their score from the likes of Evan, Mark, and Nico, all the top 3-point contributors. What does Navy look like on rings, James?
On rings, they're looking pretty solid. They're number 9 in the nation. They have a few guys, including two specialists, that look like they're going to be competing here on rings. But first, they're heading over to vault, where they actually have a little bit of a deficit to make up. They're ranked 11th in the nation there, and only a couple guys breaking 14 on vault. But let's see what they can put together. I mean, vault again is one of those really hit or miss events, much like floor, where and actually even more so, because having a fall on vault means that you missed 100% of your routine. You missed every part of it. And they actually are missing their number 1 vault scorer today, Isaiah Drake. Looks like he's not competing almost anything. So I think he may be out. He was at Winter Cup just last week. So he might be out for this week, and that'll probably set them back a bit on vault. But let's see what they can put together anyways.
And just as a reminder, you can see the team totals up on the screen right now. William Mary's 1014 to Navy's 1033. The midshipmen are headed to vault, and William Mary is headed to rings. You see Ross, Solomon, Gurovich, and Petros for the shipmen, and Mark Fu, Greenlee, Gavin, and Evan on team scores. You'll again see Luke Tully in that 5th spot. He's going to be competing in the all-around position. And some inside gymnastics, if you will. In order to compete in the all-around position, you need to be on the lineup and count for the team score on 3 events. We saw him count for floor. He's likely to count for. One second here.
Looks like he's on vault and high bar.
High
If I
bar,
have that
yeah.
right.
So I think that is right. So every other event that he's on will be for the all-around position, and that's really in an effort to make NCAAs as an individual should the team not make it as a unit, because after the scores shake out for the team qualifier, it goes to individuals on singular events, including the all-around. So that's probably kind of the idea behind him competing in the all-around so late in the season.
Yeah, and also, I mean, even if you do make it as a team, it's nice to have a chance to make it for day 2 as an all-rounder, as an individual event qualifier as well. So it could just be, I mean, on the one hand, trying to qualify as an individual to the first day of NCAA championships, or getting in shape for to try to qualify for day 2 if and when the team makes it there too.
Yeah.
And Ian, remind me, how many teams are making it this year for NCAAs?
It's still 12. It's been 12 for as long as I can remember, which is, back to 2014. 12 teams were still making it, which was kind of funny when, 2 or 3 seasons ago, there were only 13 teams in the NCAA for men's gymnastics, but the sport has been growing, which we absolutely love to see. It's up to 15 now, split across 3 conferences, which is Big Ten, ECAC, and I'm going to get these initials wrong, but MSFP, I believe.
MPSF, I think.
MPSF.
Yeah, MPSF. Yeah, that's that West Coast group. Yeah, but now now we get an introduction of 2 new teams in the D3 area. So that means we have a couple of, at least one D3 team will be making it no matter what.
Right.
Is that right? No, not necessarily. They could all miss it, but it seems like they're on pace to, at least.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. I think a D3 team gets a slot. The winner of ECACs gets an automatic bid, and then it's 10 teams after that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't quote me on that. I wouldn't put it in writing, but I think that's the case. I certainly am not up to it since I'm not chasing that position anymore. But I think that's how it shakes out for the team qualifiers.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things when you're in it, those rules super well. You know exactly where your team sits, what you need.
You're
as
following
soon
the
as you're
scores
away
on
from it.
a weekly basis, seeing what other teams are doing, even calculating what you need at conference to get there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember every week checking the NQS and seeing, okay, where do I sit? Am I anywhere within range? Okay, what would I have to put together? Should I maybe like up my set a little bit?
Right.
Never worked out in my favor, but it did for a few teammates. You know, we doctored their sets later in the season through some difficulty and got them a spot at NCAA's, which is always amazing to see.
Yeah, I'll never forget our ECAC championships my senior year. We were neck and neck with Air Force to make NCAA's as a team, and we had finished our conference finals. I don't know why we were still there, but the entire team was basically sitting at West Point just watching the Air Force meet to see what score they came out with, and then quickly do the math to see if we had made it. Fortunately, when all the dust settled, we got the bid, and I just remember the whole team erupting to go to NCAA's as one cohesive unit for the first time since 2014.
And that's just amazing, you know, to get in as a full team is just incredible. Because then you get that atmosphere, your guys cheering you up, pulling you to be the best you can. Is just awesome.
Yeah,
Speaking
phenomenal.
of which, we got Mark Fu here, and you see the team cheering him on behind him. He started off with a super nice set, some nice cross work in there, moving through some good swing elements as well.
Fighting for that
So he's
handstand
gearing,
2-second hold. Looks like he's gearing up for the
yeah.
dismount here. Half in, half out, and he was fighting for it. He wanted it, but had to take a step backwards. I mean, super clean in the air though. Saved the tenths where he could. That's a good lead off for William Mary, and we'll see what the judges do with it. But up for the midshipman, we have Riley Ross on vault. Looks like he's going to be doing a Yurchenko entry for us, which I would say you don't see too much in gymnastics, men's gymnastics. You typically see a front handspring or a round-off style entry, but he's going to be doing a round-off before the table and then entering backwards. Ooh, really nice 1.5. Wow, that was pretty.
It's stuck cold. And that's the thing with those Yurchenko style vaults is that they incur way less deduction than especially the round off entry vaults, just because you don't have any of that leg splitting or maybe tucking up onto the table, coming around at an angle, something like that. But you saw there absolutely super clean from Riley Rose. And just, yeah, perfect on the landing, pretty solid in the air. So that's going to be a very, very small amount of deduction incurred on that 1.5.
Seeing that green flag go up is just such a great feeling. I mean, it's on vault, it's the only skill, but on every other event, it is like the exclamation point on a set well done. And it's just so great to see that judge raise his hand for that extra tenths.
Yeah, I love that feeling of just, you know, especially when you're up on the, you know, you go and you fight for a landing, you click your heels together, and then when you get to look over at that judge's table and watch that flag come up, and that's when you know it's time to really start celebrating.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Especially when you have a bit of you know, maybe a little bit of a foot slide or maybe a little bit too wide on your feet or something, and they still give it to you, then you can really, you know, give them a thank you.
Yeah, hit
A
it
nice
well,
big cheer
slipped it by
afterwards.
them. Yeah, no, it's. And I mean, even though, you know, a 1/10 step might not seem like a lot, but since there are 24 routines, I mean, if you just think about it, if every dismount was stuck, you get the 1/10 back, and then you don't incur the 1/10 deduction. So you're looking at a 2/10 swing on 24 events. That's 4.8 points, and that's huge. I mean, not everybody is going to stick, obviously, and there's no stick bonus on pommel horse, but even small steps can really add up across these competitions. So fighting for every tenth is just, it's the name of the game in this sport.
Yeah, I think it's at Greenville in their practice gym. They have a big sign that just says execution, execution, execution. And you see it come through in their gymnastics. And those guys are fighting every single tenth, and that's why they've had so much success, even in their brief, you know, history. Just a couple years with that team, but already succeeding.
That was
Ooh.
Nico Greenlee for the Tribe. A really, really clean set. I mean, his handstand line is unbelievable, but he just had a little bit too much power on that tuck double dismount. Big dismount for him, but just over rotated it. Had to take a couple steps back.
I just want to point out Riley Rose there had a start value of a 14 and got a 13.9,
Oh my
meaning he had
goodness.
2/10 in deduction, got 1/10 back on the stick there. I mean, that is just incredible.
That might be some kind of NCAA record for an execution score.
It's got to be up there. I mean, you really can't have much better than that.
Yeah, 1/10 is unbelievable. I mean, very well deserved. He was perfectly clean through the air. I mean, I wouldn't have taken anything more than what they took, but 1/10 from your difficulty is a sight to behold. Good job to him.
I would imagine if he was on the women's side of things, that probably would have chalked up to a 10.0. Just
No
guessing
doubt.
how they dole out scores there. Then we just saw Brian Solomon with a hand Rudy. Pretty big vault, piked it down a little there, kind of bounced out of it. And like we were talking about, not as clean of an entry, so incurs a bit more of deduction, but pulls up with a 13.6. So still a respectable score because he has a bit of higher start value there, doing the front 1.5 rather than the back 1.5.
Yeah, cut 2 really big scores for the midshipman on vault. That's definitely what they're looking to do here. High to mid 13s is what we're looking for on vault. And I would say vault, the litmus test for that 13 is just a little bit higher by nature of how the event is scored. And that's after a 4/10 reduction in difficulty across all vaults. Is that right, James?
Yeah, they just brought him down 4/10, and previously was also 4/10, and before that also a point. So I mean, we're down 1.8 from where we used to be on vault scores for start values. But people just keep pushing the difficulties of vaults up, doing them cleaner, and they still are a very high scoring event. Kind of no matter what FIG does, vault winds up being a high scoring event regardless.
Yeah, you used to see, 12, 16 years ago, you used to see start values that started with a 7 or 17.
Yes.
I mean,
17.0. I think there were some 17.4 vaults even.
Just unbelievable. I mean, you were scoring 85s in the old style of the code as a team score, and now you've dropped it to 70s or probably or.
Let's go, Gavin.
Yeah, 80 flat would be a really fantastic score. I think Riley Luce was the only one from Winter Cup that broke 80. Maybe Fred was pretty close as well, but it was, 80 is a super, super high score these days.
Up the
Little
tribe
fight on the handstand there from Gavin, but holds it together well.
Gearing up for the dismount here. Tuck double, squeezes it around with a small hop.
Wow.
Good fight from Gavin to finish out that set.
Yeah, and a great recovery from his horse routine. I mean, that's the mentality that you need just to kind of reset, come back, hit a nice clean routine, and move on.
And that's another one of the big changes that you're going to see this season if you're a longtime fan of gymnastics. You'll see a lot bigger dismounts because they've changed the scoring such that dismounts are now weighed higher for your difficulty. So you'll see, double doubles off of high bar, double doubles off of rings, bigger dismounts.
Maybe some triple backs here and there.
Yeah, exactly.
Double fronts off P-bars.
And that was Daniel Gurovich. I think that's the 3rd time we've seen him, so he may also, if I had to guess, be competing all around today. A nice double full from him and a pretty clean landing, so we'll see what the judges do with that. But midshipman rolling through this vault rotation with momentum and definitely on track for what they're looking to do today.
Yeah, and a 13.8 comes in for Daniel Gurovich, so another solid routine, high 13s across the board so far, with just one left to go on vault.
Up next for the tribe on rings, we have Evan Wilkins. He's anchoring for them today as well as he did on floor.
Yeah, it's a classic combo. I mean, someone nice and powerful like that, being really solid on floor. Rings, you probably see him on vault as well, with that sort of strength and explosiveness. It's sort of a kind of a classic cliche you see with some guys.
And he is the top points contributor for the tribe on rings. So again, seeing that top point contributor in the anchor spot, we'll see if he can put up a score that he's happy with today. But the tribe rotation for rings, a little bit a little bit less of momentum than they had on floor, but some hit sets out of them, and they're just looking to keep this going.
Yeah, I mean, some solid scores coming in. I mean, Mark Fu with a 13-2 and Nico Greenlee with a 12-9. Even with that bit of a hop on the dismount, and Gavin's score comes in 12-6. So for some ring scores, not too bad for the tribe overall. And let's see what Evan can do, hopefully coming with a solid anchor score.
I mean, this is such a great shot for rings. I love the camera setup here because you can just see the entire team in the background. There's no one on high bar, so they can take up space. They can get out of their corral. They can really get the energy behind a ring set like this. And the atmosphere of a college competition is just unbelievable. It's almost deafening when you get to championship season. All of the 6 or 7 different teams cheering at the top of their lungs, like it shakes the building, and it is something you kind of have to get used to from junior gymnastics because it really can throw you off. But it is, if you've never been to a gymnastics competition live, I would definitely encourage you to go to one because it is such a fun environment to be in. And Evan putting down a solid set, a little fight on the last handstand there, but another tuck double dismount, and probably the best landing we've seen for that dismount for the tribe. So solid anchor set from him, and definitely going to be looking to roll that into the next event. But up for the midshipmen, we have Matthew on vault, showing us a nice double full, and another green flag goes up for the midshipmen, getting hype. Very well done. Another great anchor set for the midshipmen, and that was a solid vault rotation for them.
I think they're going to be real happy with that. I mean, I was saying before they came in here that they had maybe a little bit of ground makeup on vault, but definitely going to boost some of their averages and their scores there. I mean, that's 3 scores above 13.5 so far, and probably going to be another one. I would assume for Matthew Petros there as well. They should be pretty happy with that as a rotation. Yeah, almost breaks 14 there, 13.95. So they're going to be pretty happy there, and widening the gap a little bit, it seems like, over William and Mary. We will get William and Mary up on vault next, which should kind of set things back, get them back to be a little bit more even. But Navy is super strong on rings, ranked 9th in the nation there, and with a few key guys there who can all break well above 13. We'll see how that plays out.
Let's go, roll.
Event total for Navy sitting at a 55.25. And like James said, I mean, that was a phenomenal VAR rotation for them. They probably surpassed what they were looking to do. Some huge scores out of them, all very consistent, very clean. And we'll get Evan Wilkins' score here in a second to see where the totals shake out. But definitely widening the gap between these two teams. And William Mary's definitely got some catch up to do here. But they got one more event on rings from the freshman Luke Tully. Again, in that all-around spot. Looking to put together a score to try and get himself to NCAAs as an individual.
Navy's starting to trickle over to the rings here, and I feel like it's one of those unique things about college gymnastics is that, you're not really ever rooting against your competitor. You're there to cheer them on as well. You always kind of want to, of course you want to win, but you want to beat the best version of the other team that you can. So I'm sure that this Navy team is probably going to be, if anything, cheering on Luke Tully here as well, especially because his score will not impact the team competition. Always nice.
That's a great point, James, and something I wanted to mention earlier. It's always nice to have your team at NCAAs, but even as an individual, you rotate with a team that has made it as a unit. And they're cheering for you. They know you're kind of out here on an island all by yourself. You may know some people on that team. The men's community is not that large for gymnastics, so you probably either trained with some of them or you've competed against them, and you'll absolutely see other teammates, other competitors cheering you on, because at the end of the day, like you said, you are just trying to, it's kind of you against you out there for a lot of gymnastics, and you're certainly never wishing to beat not the best version of somebody else. It's one of the great things I love about the sport. Another comment around the environment of the college meet.
Yeah, it can be such a good uplifting atmosphere, especially like you said, this men's community is so small, and you kind of, we need everyone there to be raising each other up, helping each other out, giving tips. I think some of the best advice I've gotten on some skills and things like that is from competitors at meets and warm-ups, just, saying, hey, why don't you try this out? Try this combo on floor instead. Have you considered thinking about this when you tap this way on high bar? And that gave me some, good inspiration and allowed me to upgrade my gymnastics in a really solid way. And a really great routine there from Luke Tully in the all-around spot, but super clean set and not super high difficulty, but stuck to dismount and really very little deduction or big errors in that routine at all.
Yeah, I was talking about you can notice a good pommel guy from kind of the swing they have, the speed and the control. I'd say the litmus test for that for rings is your handstand, actually.
Yeah,
if you see a gymnast with like a really good handstand, it becomes like a resting position. Like that is the goal for a handstand in rings. And I mean, Luke had a great line, really solid, not a whole lot of movement there. And I could see him pushing difficulty in the years to come. But for right now, a really great set from him and where he can be.
Yeah. No, and I mean, a ring handstand, it looks so easy when really, really solid ring workers do it, but that is a really hard thing to do. I mean, handstand can be sort of a resting position on P bars, maybe on floor, but for rings, that's often actually a really difficult strength position for a lot of people. It can be tough, but not for Luke. That was super clean. And I'd say the other test of a good rings guy, not for like the super high level, super high strength stuff, but for just the if it's clean or not is the lack of swing. And you saw Luke basically those rings stayed exactly right in the middle the whole time. And makes very little deduction. Also means he has fantastic control. So good on him for that nice set.
And looking at team totals here, after the third rotation, we have William and Mary sitting at a 153.5. and the midshipmen sitting at a 158.55. So about almost exactly a 5-point difference. I'd be surprised if they can make that all up on vault. As James mentioned, rings is a really strong rotation for the midshipmen. So William Mary is definitely looking to put up a big score for them and improve their team score. Vault scores seem to be flying today. They were deserved by the midshipmen, but hopefully William Mary can capitalize and help their chances for a team score. Pulling up the event summaries by gymnast. You can see here Mark at a 13.2, Greenlee at a 12.9, Gavin at a 12.6, and Evan at a 13.4. Kind of pushing those 13 scores that are the litmus test across today's competition. And then, I mean, Navy, we've mentioned so many times, just absolutely destroyed their vault rotation with everything above a 13.6. Very well done, very well deserved from the midshipmen today.
And I think let's see what William and Mary can bring for us on vault as well. I think they're going to have a really solid lineup coming in here. I think you mentioned it before, but they have was it, remind me if I'm wrong, but who was it that set that record or tied one of the records recently for William and Mary?
Yeah, that was the anchor you see on screen right now, Connor Barrow, the freshman. He does a Yurchenko 2.5. Which starts at a 4.8, and he stuck it cold, tying for the first or second highest score in William & Mary history. Sam Lee also does a 2.5, but a different style entry, so I'd keep my eye out for those two. And William & Mary, at least in the context of historically the vault lineup, I mean, when I was there, we were chasing as many double full vaults as we could get, and now William & Mary's chasing as many 2.5. So they're a strong vault lineup this year. Excited to see what they can put together.
And I mean, having that 2.5 set up on vault, I mean, if you can have a full lineup of 2.5s, you're talking about, definitely best in the NCAA type. I mean, most vault rotations in the NCAA don't have a full array of 2.5s, with the exception of maybe Oklahoma, Stanford, Michigan, those types of perennially top 3
dominant
programs. Yeah, those super dominant. And again, that's only a recent thing that they have that kind of range. So, I mean, having that, even 2.5s, two of those 4.8 vaults. That's pretty significant for William and Mary, and probably going to be pretty huge. I mean, we saw Navy put up a really solid score on vault there. They had no 2.5 vaults. They had double fulls, 1.5s, front 1.5s, and really good, really well executed, but just behind on difficulty compared to what we're hopefully going to see from William and Mary today. We saw that final score come in for Luke Tully there, 12.65. Yeah, a solid score for him, especially for an all-around spot. Really well executed. Only about 9/10 off there. So definitely something he should be happy with, and probably going to help out that all-around NQS score.
And he might actually be shaking up lineups here a little bit. He scored higher than Nico. He's got less difficulty, higher than Gavin. He's got 0.6 less in difficulty, but was just cleaner. So maybe a decision for the coaches to make for the upcoming meet. Might be a little late to shake up lineups, but he has proved that he can put up a score that helps the team. But speaking of rings, we have Aaron Stein up for the midshipman, starting off with some really impressive strength moves.
Yeah, straight planche and the cross to start things off, moving into some swing work there. That's another one of the skills that got changed up in the last code. Used to be a C, the tucked Yamawaki, now downgraded to a B. Piked also went from a D to a C. So some of those classic swing skills that we're used to seeing, not going to see them so much anymore. They're just not as emphasized in this new code.
Wow, I actually didn't realize that they had downgraded. Lay half in, half out. Green flag goes up. Great lead off for the midshipmen on rings. I actually didn't realize that they had downgraded the Yamawaki to a B.
Yeah, it's I have to say that was 7/10 of my difficulty and basically all my rings difficulty. But yeah, no, downgraded this last year. And nice double full to start things off for Ricky on vault. Yeah, a little bit of a step there, a little bit around the side, but otherwise pretty clean through the air, and definitely something good. Land on your feet, start things off solid.
For Ricky, I actually didn't realize he was competing vault. A pommel, vault, and high bar guy. They have zero overlap in terms of transferable skills, so it is quite unique to see that be the three events that somebody competes for a lineup. I mean, good for him.
Yeah, I mean, pommels is so much about rhythm, timing. Obviously, there's a lot of strength in it, but it's all about that flow, rhythm, timing. Vault is all about the power, and high bar is also a bit of a special thing. I mean, yeah, it has to do with swinging, a little bit of strength perhaps in the upper body, but it's pretty unique as an event, I would say. So yeah, interesting combo, but yeah, maybe he's hoping to vie for an all-around spot or something, or just has the right things to fit on those sorts of lineups. But yeah, really solid there. Comes with a 13.55. Really solid way to start off for William and Mary on vault.
And we're still waiting on Aaron's score, but up next for the midshipmen, we have Julian Galvis. And I mean, James, you mentioned that one of the tests that you look out for on a really solid ring guy is the amount of swing in the rings. Some history of gymnastics. They are called still rings because there used to be swinging rings. Swinging rings, I mean, you'll probably see them more so in like the circus now or at Muscle Beach, but I certainly am glad that they were not part of my training regimen because I don't know if I would have been any good at them. It looks pretty terrifying. I like my things stationary.
No, swinging rings is a pretty weird event. I was coaching in the Netherlands for a little bit, and that's actually still pretty normal and still practiced for like the recreational level at swinging rings. But I did not have my boys learning that because I did not know what they were doing, and it seemed way too scary for me. But still rings, yeah, you see here a little bit of a wobble side to side there for Julian. But yeah, that can pick up some deduction if you're swinging or wobbling side to side, and yeah, hence the name change, still rings. It should be a still apparatus with you moving around and the rings staying right in the middle, ideally.
And it also, I mean, when the rings start to pick up swing like that, it makes a handstand. We already mentioned that a handstand can be pretty difficult if you're not like an elite rings guy, which will make it even more challenging because not only is there a bunch of strength, but balance is just that much more required, and you have to figure out how to stop the ring swing, which is a skill that you got to teach young kids. I'm sure that you've tried to do, James, but Julian managing it very well, seeing that green flag go up on his dismount, really solid showing from him.
Yeah, and he had a nice kind of that swing kill in those bails there, which he did really well and settled things. Heading back to vault now, Sam Lee, big 2.5 and just a little hop there.
Getting hype. Phones are out. That's probably for the promo that they're gonna make in a little bit. I was talking to James a little bit before the stream, and Sam is big into cinematography and has started like editing a lot of his own gymnastics, and it's got solid production value, a lot more than you might expect from college gymnastics. But he's definitely gonna put that vault in there. Huge, really clean in the air, and just a small hop on the landing. So hoping for a big score out of him. We got a 13.55 from Ricky and a 13.7 from Aaron. Great score from Aaron, coming in at a high 13s on rings. As we mentioned, they are a really strong ring lineup. And for the leadoff guy to go 13.7, assuming that he is the consistent one, I'm excited for the rest of their rotation.
Yeah, some pretty big scores to start things off, and Sam really excited with that. I mean, that should come through as a pretty solid score there for Sam, and yeah, two big rotations that we're probably seeing right here. 14.2 comes in the score for Sam Lee. That is a really solid score there, putting him in the lead already.
First 14 we've seen for this meet.
At first 14 anywhere across the whole meet. So yeah, that's pretty big. This goes to show exactly how huge that is of a vault and how huge of a score we're talking about here.
Julian's score comes in at a 13, a little bit lower in difficulty, but only 6/10 off. I mean, that was a supremely clean routine coming out of him. He's followed by Brian Solomon, who I think is the second we've seen this competition.
I think we've been seeing him a couple times now. Yeah, he's been competing all around. I don't know if he'll be competing all around in this meet, but he's been on a few different things. Even as a sophomore, having that all around still going. You see either a lot of guys try to force it their freshman year, or maybe they pull off. They're not on lineups for everything, and then they come back junior, senior year. But he's pushing through and putting up big scores across the board. See, he's picked up a bit of swing here.
Timing that cast out of the inverted L to try and kill his swing, and he seems like he's done a good job there, but really trying to find that handstand and lock in. You can see he was kind of moving through the whole thing. The judges could have the option of not giving him the hold because technically the count starts when you stop moving. They more than likely didn't do that, but he finishes out, unfortunately, with an under-rotated dismount.
Yeah, a bit of a tough set there for the midshipman. But headed back to vault, we got Luke Tully. He's just setting up for a Yurchenko-style vault here. Big double full, and just a little step backwards, but nice, super clean in the air, super clean entry, and not going to be too much room for deduction on that one, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm always wondered why Yurchenkos are not taught more in JO gymnastics. JO, for the viewers, is the level through, when you start at 4 and go through high school. It's all called JO for a broad generalization. And I mean, at my gym, we trained Yurchenkos maybe for a week and then kind of just went back to round-offs and front handsprings. But as we've seen, they really do have less of an ability to get deducted on that pre-flight form, and your legs are typically together. You can't really be crooked where you can in a round-off, and you typically see them score a lot higher. So Luke's score comes in at a 13.55, the exact same as Ricky's on a double full vault there.
I think it's one of those things where, it might be a bit harder to learn at the beginning, and typically it takes a year or two just figuring out how to go over the table, get that block, but then the payoff is so high. I think You see it a lot in women's gymnastics where everyone pretty much is learning Yurchenkos. Most of them aren't flipping a Yurchenko until they're, maybe 14 or 15, whereas a lot of boys are flipping Suks when they're 12 or 13, but then their ceiling kind of peaks out a bit lower because they don't have, that nice clean entry that you get access to with the Yurchenko. So yeah, one of those things that I think we need to see the JO system maybe incentivize more if we're looking to add that for international reasons or something like that, or maybe find some other alternatives as well to clean up those other entries of vaults.
Brian Solomon's still on eval here, but he's followed up by Isaiah Drake, who we are seeing for the first time this competition. Is that right, James?
Yeah, this looks like it's his first time. I mean, he's usually an all-arounder. He's been super high scoring, but it looks like this is his first time coming up here. He was just at Winter Cup. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago as well? He's been up on the national team scene for a few years now, and he's been performing pretty well on some of those smaller international assignments for the U.S. team, putting up some pretty solid scores internationally. And he's one of those guys that really has carried this Navy team on several events. And yeah, I think you mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, but there's probably a bit of resting, strategic, putting guys up to rest them into the championship season. And that might be one of the cases here that they're only putting him up on a few key events and saving his body and resting him for the upcoming ECAC and NCAA championships. You see why he's the anchor there.
Beautiful sacrifice Maltese, and one of those things, again, the count starts when you stop moving, and he stopped moving the moment he got into that position. I mean, really well done sacrifice Maltese there, and just some solid swinging elements. And sometimes you'll see these rings guys, they're either really good in swinging or they're really strong in the hold positions, but Isaiah Drake seemingly doing it all. Back double, kicks it out, got time in the air, and just a small hop in the landing. Midshipmen are excited for it. The crowd is excited for it, as they should be. That was very well done by him.
Yeah, really solid set and a really great way to anchor there for Isaiah. I mean, that's a big routine, especially coming in kind of, late. We were talking a bit about how this works, but I mean, that's the fourth rotation coming in for your first event. That can be tough on the body. We head over here to Connor Barrow, anchor on vault for William and Mary. You see the crowd and the team getting hyped up here, clapping along.
Oh, just a double full today.
Just a double full, but clean, well executed, tiny little step there. Overall, pretty solid of a rotation for vault there for William and Mary.
And they're probably still trailing the midshipmen. We'll see the final scores get in here for Connor and Isaiah and update you on some team totals. Prior to the scores coming in, it's a 3-point difference. And we'll see where it shakes out, but we'll keep you all up to date. And James, to your point, I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the mental aspect of waiting so long. We were talking about not winning warm-ups, training for the entire 90 minutes, and then having to wait for 2 hours. Being an event specialist in college is really just a waiting game. It is very difficult to stay warm that entire time, and can be really tough on the mental to get cold, get warm, and then compete, especially as, an anchor for Isaiah Drake here. But scores are in. We'll update 13.75 for Connor and a 13.7 for Isaiah Drake. Totals are 208.55 and 211.05. So the 5-point difference narrowed to a 3-point difference, making up a little ground for the tribe here as they head into P-bars and the midshipmen head into high bar for the 5th event rotation. James, what I don't recall what events that you were training when you were competing, but did you ever have to do the warm up and weight other than your first meet freshman year?
No, I think that was the worst case I had. I was more of a high bar and floor guy. So at the time, I had a knee injury and wasn't doing floor for a while. So those meets where we had high bar near the end, either 5th or 6th rotation, usually those could be the ones where you're sitting around for a while, nothing to do. That happened to me, quite a few times. And let me tell you, not a nice experience to be in. Just waiting. lot of theory about, okay, when do I put my warm up jacket on? When do I put my warm up pants on? When do I take them off? When do I do this? Am I even able to go cheer for the event before? Because now I need to, let my throat rest a little bit so I can breathe during the event. Um, yeah, but one of those things, and you get used to it with time, but certainly not an easy experience, especially as a younger collegiate athlete. It can be pretty tough mentally on you to just, yeah, get that feeling right. Especially if you're thinking about a later event like P bars or high bar in the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really interesting point, and I was going to mention it. It sounds really silly, but I mentioned the energy and the cheering that goes on in a college meet, and while it's incredibly fun, I think you might be surprised to hear, the viewers, that it is pretty tiring to cheer for 23 events before you finally go for, high bar, and it can be kind of exhausting, and you kind of have to take that into account as you're cheering for your team and you're getting ready. Can you cheer for the event before you go? Do you have to focus up? Do you have to get in your headspace? I always liked carrying. I competed high bar as leadoff man for some events, for some meets my senior year, and I always like to carry parallettes with me to keep like my shoulders and my handstand warm and keep my warm up on. And it's that stuff you just figure out over time, and you kind of have to trial and error it, which is kind of unfortunate because your score counts for the team, and you don't really have a whole lot of error to be had. But it is a whole lot of factors that go into staying warm and peaking at the right time, even within a meet. We were talking about peaking at championship season, but in a meet you got to peak at the right time too. You got to be ready to go when the time is called, and it's uh it's a pretty unique thing that you might not think about too much, that these gymnasts have to struggle with.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where, like, we were talking about Steven Netorosik earlier, who, right, event specialist on the team. He did all of that training for 20 some odd years now to peak for a 60-second window at the Olympics twice, basically. So, think about all of the preparation that you're doing, all of the mental preparation, physical preparation, rehab, everything like that, timing, surgeries and rehab appointments and everything, just so that you can have that exact, 1 minute, 2 minutes of the best that you can absolutely be and have that come through perfectly. It's really difficult to do, and something that requires, even someone like Steven Netorosik, he had time periods where he wasn't as consistent, and then he changed his approach, a little bit physically, a little bit mentally, and you see here it clearly paid off for him in the end, being able to peak, going right up into the Olympics and having that absolutely fantastic performance that he did. And that's just what everyone here is trying to replicate. And for him, it was sitting in complete silence, eyes closed, at Paris. And for other guys, it's about screaming and cheering your teammates on the whole time to keep the energy up. But yeah, very individual thing, and really changes the feeling at a meet.
So it looks like we're getting ready for our one touch here. And to the point about things being individual, this is probably more information than the viewers care to know, but the P-bar setting, we use a combination of chalk and honey, but every gymnast kind of likes the P-bar set in their own way. So you might see guys take a wet rag to the bars and then basically redo the grip and the amount of chalk on there. And it can happen every event. Every gymnast can do it. You do have a limited amount of time to get it done, but that was always a pretty big thing for guys that are pretty particular. The team would get involved. Anybody that wasn't competing would get involved and bring the chalk box, bring the honey, bring the water, like try and help in any way they can. It's a really funny, really chaotic thing to see, but it plays a pretty important point for the guys doing the really big underbar skills that you might see today. An event like rings doesn't really have that. You have your grips, you have your chalk, but P-bars, you have nothing like that. You just have your hands. So you try and set the bars any way you can to give you a little bit of advantage and comfort. One of those things that you try and control when it can be variable across every different set of apparatus.
Yeah, and I mean, it's basically that whole team goes to NASCAR pit crew mode and just
Yeah.
bring everything out at once. You got sandpaper, you got the wet towels, you got honey, you got Caro syrup, you got sugar water. Some people make their own blends of different things. I had a friend who had like a secret recipe of like boiled down Gatorade and vinegar for some reason. But he swore by it, and the dude could do a bell no problem. So whatever works, I
Whatever
guess.
works, exactly. You do what you got to do. Up first for the Tribe on P-Bars, we have Zachary Patrick, who did make Winter Cup on this event through the West Point Open. So hoping for a pretty big score from him here. Leadoff guy, really clean, starting with an L press giant, some of that underbar work that we were talking about, into a really nice depelt. I mean, he's got a lot of control here, and we'll see what his upper bar work looks like.
Nice Bilazerchev up into the studs, just a little off the handstand there, but not bad. Something we talked about before the meet started is that half piro there being necessary. You can't swing up to a handstand, hold for 2 seconds, and swing down anymore. You got to pirouette or press up to it to keep the routine moving now.
Big
nice double
pike
and
finish that out.
Really solid routine there. Like you said, super clean, just so you would expect out of a leadoff guy, but really, really nice routine for Zachary Patrick there to start things off.
Up for the midshipmen, we have Vishal Mandava, excuse me. And high bar is another one of those events. I think about it similar to pommels, where it can be really volatile, especially when you have these big release moves where you let go and recatch. I mean, missing one of those, you come off the bar, you got to walk to the chalk box, get back, and then restart, and maybe even redo the release that you just missed. But Vishal started with that Yamawaki and has a bunch of really good in-bar work you can see here. Into the flying giant, which actually is a B, as he gears up a lot of speed for his dismount. Really nice half in, half out, and that green flag yet again goes up. I mean, the midshipmen, you got to give them credit. They have been on top of their landings today.
Yeah, something I know Craig Holt definitely pushes a lot is that those stuck landings, and it clearly comes through. I mean, they are putting in some really nice work there, giving up very little ground on those stuck landings, and just picking up free tenths where they can. I'd say the only thing that really kind of stood out as a deduction from Vishal's routine was that half talk, that in-bar move with the turn out of it. Seemed like it came a bit off the handstand. Let's see if it should be credit. It looked like he was around the 45-degree mark. But that's one of those skills that you can go from having D value with very little deduction, and with just a small angle change, you can be at no credit with more than 5 tenths or even a point deduction for different things. Just exactly how you come out makes such a big difference. But hopefully they're not too harsh on him for that one.
And they also, James, changed the angle at which deductions start to get incurred on high bar, right? Didn't they move everything by 15 degrees?
Yeah, they tightened everything up by 15 degrees. So it used to be that you had some more leniency. I think it was 45 degrees, below 45 degrees was no credit. Or actually, even previously before that, below 90 degrees was no credit. So you could do a Takamoto that came out right at the bar level and still get credit. But now you need to be within 30 degrees of the handstand, actually. So that's going to be a bit tougher. We'll probably incur a bit more deduction, but they're really forcing those super nice high handstand lines like you see out of some of the higher level international gymnasts.
So up next for the Tribe, we have Sam Lee, and then Riley Rose on high bar for the shipmen. Vishal's score comes in with 13-1, about a point off in deduction. So again, really clean throughout. As James mentioned, kind of the only big deduction you could see was that talk half where he shoots out of a seated position and does a half turn. But other than that, I mean, the judges really struggled to find anything to nail him on. So great set from him, and a great leadoff above a 13 for the shipmen.
Yeah, and still waiting on the score from Zachary Patrick here. Looks like they're taking a bit of time with that. We see now 14-2 as a start value posted. We'll see how much comes off of that. Only 8 tenths off, so 13-4 final score for Zachary Patrick, and that's a really solid leadoff score for parallel bars here.
Sam Lee's got the green light, and I know Sam Lee has been training a tucked half-in, half-out dismount. I don't know if he's ready to put it into a set here, but it is one of the highest difficulty dismounts that really anybody does on P-bars. So if he gets brave enough, he might throw it in, but he might just do what he's comfortable with at this late stage in the season. But starting off with some pretty confident handstand work and underbar work. Really nice D on there. I've always loved Sam's line. I got to train with him a little bit when we were on the team together, and he's a super senior, so he's definitely got the experience in this competition and is confident, but he's showing it off here in his P-bar set.
And super nice line through everything here. Oh, and just doesn't quite pull around the tucked half-half. Massive dismount, though. I mean, that is the hardest dismount on parallel bars, and just barely not pulling it around.
Would have loved to see him put it on his feet. I was told he did do it last week and was able to get it down, but not today. So a little bit of work to be done, but it is so fun to watch. Riley Rose on high bar for the midshipman. And again, you can see some really nice in-bar work. Those shoulders are doing what they can on the eagle work, as it's called. Gearing up for a Dakachev. Really well done. Really good distance from the bar, too. He's got another one in store for us in the straddle variety. Speed for the dismount here. What does he got? Half in, half out. And again, the stick. I mean, Craig Holt is the head coach of the midshipmen, is beating it into these young men, and they are taking note. That's 2 for 2. Can they go 4 for 4? They might be able to, and that would be a pretty rare sight to see. Both gymnasts still on eval, but next up for the tribe we have Evan Wilkins, and for the midshipmen we have Matthew Petros. So just some context for William & Mary's parallel bar rotation. They are ranked 11th in the nation, so just right in line with their team score. Definitely going to be looking to keep the momentum and where their scores have been today throughout the rotation. I'd keep an eye out. We saw Zach Patrick go, put up a great leadoff score. As mentioned, he was a Winter Cup guy. But I'd keep an eye out for junior Mark Fu. He's got an unbelievable skill called a Makoots. That I would argue is one of the best in the NCAA, so I'll try and highlight that when he goes, but he's going to be the anchor here for William & Mary today.
Yeah, and that Makoots you're talking about there, I mean, that's a pretty high-level skill, and it also means you have to have a few other skills building up to it as well. So, you know, having that Diamondov and the Healy that you need to do in order to get to that Makoots typically means that you're looking at a pretty solid set altogether. In order to get there. So yeah, excited to see how that routine looks for Mark. And we also have Luke Tully as a all-around spot again, and then we'll see him in the lineup for high bar for the last event as well. So we'll see. Doesn't look like anyone else is doing all-around here, so it'll be a nice quick win for Luke Tully, assuming he competes all 6 in the end.
And we do have Sam Lee and Riley scores in. Sam Lee gets a 12-4-5. And I mean, that's still a pretty high score with a fall. If he was able to put that dismount on his feet, you were probably looking at a 13-1. So he's pretty clean throughout, and without that fall, I mean, he can do it, but just wasn't able to get it around today. Definitely looking to push the boundaries of the scoring for William & Mary. Riley Rose, very consistent with his teammate. The midshipmen are... Name of the game for them on high bar is consistency. You see another 13-1 with a 4-0 start value. The judges just did not find what they could for execution.
And that's really the tough thing with high bars. I mean, it can be such a beautiful event, but also such a super high deduction event with all those angles, and any little mistake can be pretty tough on high bar.
Yeah.
Evan Wilkins here with a really
flying through this routine.
Yeah, moving really quickly through this upper bar work, and we saw that big 1 1/4 to start things off.
Dismount near the uprights, always sketchy. No problem for him, though. Really nice double pike. Big old smile. Celebration for the crowd. Yeah, that was a fast set, but it was strong throughout. I mean, the jump to peach handstand is a skill that he made it look easy, but it requires so much timing and so much strength. Well done from Evan on P-bars.
And that's the thing with these 8 skill routines and someone working quickly through a set like that when it's really well constructed. I mean, these routines can be under 45 seconds now, which it allows for a lot more fun viewership and a lot more difficulty packed in there. We see that talk coming back the other way for Matthew here, but picks up back into the routine. Oh, and just overshoots the layout to Kachev.
Fingertipped that release move. Matthew was really trying to fight for those handstands. You saw him do a talk full, which is just a full turn instead of a half turn on that similar stupid entry as we call it. And then he tried to plant himself in that handstand to minimize the deductions that we've been talking about, and just got a little bit too shy of it. But maybe something to be said to throw him off for his layout to Kachev. But he's gonna have to repeat a release move here. A release move is a requirement on high bar to get that base start value up where it can be, and looks like he's going to do another Kachev here for us. Yeah, much better, really solid distance.
Yeah, and that's what it should look like there.
Across, a little wonky on the shoulder angle. He's got to fight. Just the dismount. Half in, half out. A little under rotated. I mean, great fight from him. A little bit of a bummer for sure, but Isaiah Drake, second appearance, is definitely going to be looking to anchor this rotation for the midshipman.
Yeah, and I mean, a good way to finish things up there for Matthew at least. Still a way to, just finish up the routine, keep it as clean as he possibly could, and then leave with his head up, which is all you can really do after a miss like that. But over to Mark Fu on P-bars with that nice Makut.
Into the Healy, as James was talking about. Kind of a prerequisite skill to even attempt that Makuts. And the Diam, packing in the upper bar work. Again, it looks like he's flying through it, but he's strong, he's confident, he's got a nice line. Oh, little wobble in that handstand, but for his dismounted double pike, manages to put it on his feet. And a great set for Mark. I mean, that Makuts is just so pretty to watch every time. You're not supposed to stop on that one bar, and he is one of the few that doesn't. You have very little time to spend there before you turn back into the middle, and it just flows for him. It's very well done.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of see some guys who fake it a little bit. They do the Diam up to 1. They kind of hang out on that one bar. Maybe they take a bounce, and then they turn into the Healy. And Mark doing none of that, just doing it exactly the way that skill is meant to be done, swinging up and over it and down into the Healy, which is, leaves very little room for deduction. Also shows just real mastery of the technique, though. So really good work for Mark on that routine, and probably going to be a pretty respectable score coming in once that gets posted.
And the way Mark did it, it looked as confident as can be, but do not be mistaken, it is terrifying. I will say, I've trained that skill once or twice in my life without any of the prereqs to do it, and it is a scary thing to do because it happens quick, and there's a thin bar beneath you that your hand needs to get to as quickly as possible to make sure you have the strength and support to swing through the bottom. But Mark's no trouble there. Evan comes in and yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say this is just another thing that, it looks so casual when people are doing it, but making sure that you put your hand down, like a Lego hand perfectly on top of that P-bar is not easy, whether you, split the bar with your fingers or if you jam a knuckle on there. You can have some pretty nasty injuries just doing something as simple as reaching onto the bar. So doing a skill like that on the Makuts with multiple hand placements and bringing your full weight down on that hand as you catch it, very tough to train, but really nice when it's executed that well.
Mark's score comes in at a 12-8. He's got a 14-2 start. That seems, I mean, I'm no judge. I did not pass the certification, but that seems a little low. The judges were definitely kind of harsh on him, but I mean, he should be proud of that set. It's a pleasure to watch, and it's really fun to execute.
Yeah, it's one of those things with P-bars where you can stack up a lot of small deductions, those 1/10 things for little checks in handstands, maybe milking the bars. Those little things on P-bars can add up, just, a bunch of 1/10ers here and there, and I'm guessing that's what happened to Mark. They're hard to see online. That's the kind of thing that those judges, that's why they make the big bucks. They can see all those tiny little things. That we
Exactly.
don't
Yeah,
have.
that's never even took the certification, but every open hand, every hand movement, it's all 1/10ers that can add up over time. But we talked through Isaiah Drake's set. That was beautifully done. I mean, a bunch of really good release moves. You can see him in the background of this shot, and a stuck dismount. They went 3 for 4, and a really solid anchor pick for him. That was beautiful.
Yeah, and this is going to leave us off in a really interesting position going into the last event here. If we look at the score for Isaiah Drake, it's probably going to come in the mid-13s, and that means that we're going to be looking at about a 1-point difference into the last event. And we missed the routine for Luke Tully there, except for that very last dismount where it looked like he finished up with a nice double pike. So his score not going to count for the team score, but again, another all-around spot. We'll see what his score comes in, as well as Isaiah's also on eval until we see the end of rotation 5.
And while we wait for those scores to come in, for James's point, Navy midshipman is ranked 7th on high bar. You can see why. An absolutely phenomenal rotation for them, and it feels like they've always been very well ranked for that rotation. But on P bar is a little bit lower at 10th versus William and Mary's high bar at 11. So we should have a very interesting score here going into the final rotations. I mean, if both teams hit the way they can and everybody goes 4 for 4, it really could go either way, which is the most exciting way to end out a meet. But it is really close. I mean, James, you are spot on. It is 260.5 to 261.45. About a 9.5 difference. I mean, just neck and neck at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference of one fall, a couple of steps, just a bit of difficulty. I mean, 1 point is tiny in terms of the margin we're talking about here. So this is really anyone's game, and it's going to require a really strong last rotation, finishing up the meet in a good way from both of these teams if they want to come out on top here. And basically, at this point, a coin flip going into rotation number 6.
On high bar for the tribe, I know I mentioned they were ranked 11th, but I would look out for Ricky, the junior. We've seen him on pommel horse and vault today. High bar is his specialty, and he's been kind of a key contributor throughout his career for William and Mary, but he still boasts one of the best sets. That being said, Luke Tully is tight on his tail for the top point contributor. So those two, you're going to see Ricky is the leadoff man, and then Luke Tully is the anchor, and that will be very interesting to see how they can perform today.
Yeah, and this whole P-bars rotation for Navy is super tightly packed. If you look at their average scores for all 4 guys that are up there, they're all within like the 12.6 to 12.8 range. So super tightly packed there. No big standouts, but really consistent, clean across the bunch. And even their high scores are all right in that 13 to 13.2 range. So any 4 of these could really be the routine that sets the difference here for Navy in this last rotation.
And you can see, as we were talking about, they kind of disperse now, but that P-bar pit crew of the entire team bringing over chalk boxes and springboards and rags, just trying to get it done in time for the first guy to start and get it where you want. I mean, we used to actually train is a strong word, but we would do dry runs of how that would work at practice to make sure that everybody who was helping knew how the guy going up wanted the bar set and could do it properly. So it is no small matter, because it does impact how the set can go broadly, and it's always great to see the team like gather around for that kind of ordeal.
Yeah, I think we used to do intra-squad competitions in college, and generally they were pretty chill affairs, kind of take your time, call over a judge when you're ready on each event. Nothing too crazy except for P-bars, where we had the timers going. We had everyone gathered around doing that walkthrough to make sure, because that's really the only event where it goes from being a team event in the sense of helping each other out to being a team event in actually getting that routine done. And you can't do that without some practice of a run through on how that's going to turn out.
I don't know who just went on P-bars, but that was a gorgeous peach handstand. All right, I'm excited for his set. I missed his name on the back of his jersey, but that peach handstand looked effortless, and it very typically does it in the NCAA, so excited for what he has in store for us. James, do you know who that was?
No, I couldn't see. It looked like it might have been Matthew Petros. I mean, he's then one of their high scorers there. Yeah, but we'll see how that comes in during the set. I think it's going to be all these guys look like they have some pretty clean lines in warm-up here. And we do have a slight score update here. We had some sort of a change. It looked like the score for Mark Fu came in, someone else's score changed, which brings the score within 6/10 going into this final rotation. It was Sam Lee's score was updated, and he now has a 12.85 as his score, which means that, we're well under 1 point in difference going into the final rotation.
And I mean, I'll reiterate and remind the viewers that Sam Lee did have a fall in his dismount and still was able to pull a 12.85. So, I mean, without that fall, he was probably looking to win P-bars, and it just goes to show you that the scoring and difficulty change this season really does push dismounts. That dismount that he did, I think, is an F, which gives him 6/10 doubled for the current scoring regimen, which is 1.2 in difficulty. I mean, it's just huge for the kind of score that he's looking for.
And that's the thing with the way the code is written, it can change so much of different things. I mean, just so quickly it goes from being, sort of dismounts or whatever, you have a few tenths swing here and there, and then all of a sudden it can be talking about a half-point difference just by one upgrade or another. Really important, just the specific way it's written. And it's a G, like you were saying, which makes it a 1.4 value skill, which is just absolutely massive.
Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, the Hiroyuki Kato, it hasn't been done for quite a few years. I think the last to do it consistently was Marcel Nguyen, the German gymnast, when he used to do it. And it kind of was questioned, why would he bother doing it when he could just do a double pike for a D. And back then it only used to actually be an F as well. So for a 2/10 upgrade to do something that much harder, so ridiculous. But now, we're talking about a difference of 6/10. So now you see why someone like Sam is putting in the work to put a huge dismount like that. Getting going here on P-bars for the midshipman, we have Jonas Soltz.
And a really nice Healy coming out of him. You could see his hand get to that bar well before his feet were kind of on their way to the max G's that come through the bottom. And that's what you want to see. I mean, that's when you can really feel confident that you're going to have the support you need to swing out of it confidently. But he is working these bars right now. A little bit of a check-in handstand, but going all the way back and forth. Really good underbar work and upper bar work. See what his dismount looks like. Nice double pike, small hop, no green flag, but a really great lead off. Getting excited for the midshipman here on P-bars.
Moving quick over to high bar, we got Ricky Pism starting off right away. Looks like they're trying to finish up this meet as quick as possible.
And I think Ricky has one of the best Yamawakis in the NCAA. You're supposed to be completely straight on that move, and a lot of gymnasts, including myself, pike it around just to get kind of their feet over the bar, but Ricky is as straight as can be and into a really big Coleman. He's got a lot of difficulty in this set. He's going to throw some one arms in here too. That's called a Zuli Min. Another really fun skill to watch.
Let's go, Ricky. Come on.
Another
Right
one
into
on there.
another one arm out of the
Scary
endo.
stuff. Winding up for his dismount, double. And can't find the green flag, but all smiles at a Ricky. Forgot where the judges are. Tends to happen when you're that excited, but a great leadoff for the Tribe.
Yeah, a lot of flips and twists in that routine. Understandable to lose track of where that desk is. But yeah, really solid start there on high bar for the Tribe.
And James, we were talking about how close the team score is at this competition, and it's great for us to build a narrative of a meet, but I don't know about you, one of the things that we used to do at William & Mary is just try our best to not look at the scores, because at the end of the day we can't really control them. We can control the set that we do, but the scores kind of are up to the judges, and looking at them tended to have more of a negative impact than a positive one, regardless of whether we were up or down or close or what have you. And I'm curious as to kind of what your experiences was with that mental game in your time competing.
Oh, I was definitely a keep my eyes off the score as long as possible kind of guy. I tried to not even know my own scores until the day after the meet. I didn't want to see anything. I just wanted to reflect on what the set was, how did it go, how did the meet go. And of course, I would look at my start value because I could tell if something was wrong there instantly and I could go argue, but the deductions I wouldn't look at until well after, where I could watch some film and see where they might have dinged me. But really nice peach work. I think Vishal is the one we were watching earlier with that nice peach half and peach hand in there. And that peach to support basically going up to 45 degrees just to show off.
Just show the judges that he really knows what he's doing and has control on every aspect of that skill. Into the double pike, a little bit under rotated, but stays on his feet. And I mean, I just want to highlight that peach work again. The drop in the back that he has is just so well done, and it makes him just float into that handstand, which even gives him which is almost a prerequisite to even try that peach half that he did. Just full of power on that peach basket, and a well done set by him, except for that dismount. So excited to see what the judges do with it.
And we're back to high bar here. We got Jared Neumann also with the Zuli Min coming in here. Nice, pretty skill to start things off. Comes into the talk. A little bit off the handstand there, but not bad.
Another one arm.
It seems like these William & Mary guys are loving the one arms.
Yeah,
nice Takachev there.
Back into front giants, probably for another stooping.
Yeah, he's got the jam. That one heads right up to the handstand.
Into the Russian giant too.
Up a lot of tense there in difficulty. That's a big sequence actually. And double layout full. A little bit off forward, but that's a solid routine from Jared.
Yeah, packing in that in-bar work. I mean, he's excited, as he should be. It's well done. And I mean, yeah, I'm very surprised to see multiple one arms in multiple sets for these gymnasts. I knew Ricky did it, but I didn't know Jared had it like that. Personally, I trained a one arm giant. I never trained the Zuli Min, but letting go for one hand as you swing through the bottom is terrifying. I mean, you spend your entire gymnastics career on two, and then to let go with one and hope your grip strength can hang on is a pretty scary thing to do, and these gymnasts do it effortlessly. Good for them.
Yeah, that trust through the bottom is really essential, and it is not easy to develop. Just being able to say, okay, I'm going to trust my dowels, I'm going to trust my forearms, and just ride through the bottom there. I mean, you're feeling multiple times your body weight at the bottom there, and yes, you have grips that are helping you out, but you're trying to swing on those. You're not trying to just white knuckle it and hold on. So keeping that fluid motion through the bottom, which you need on one arm, not an easy task. We head back over to the P-bars here. We got Matthew Petros. Like I said, highest score of the year for Navy on here. Starts off with a really nice whip it, swinging smoothly up to the handstand.
Into the nose of the pirouette.
And even on that pirouette, which he's kind of forced to do here, he takes about 2/10 in deduction, just checking his hands on what is otherwise a pretty perfect skill. And a little wobble there on the DO.
Fighting for that handstand, a little short on the giant, but finds it back into a settled position. and gearing up for his dismount here. He's got an L press. And Jared, I don't like that change to the pirouette and an empty swing handstand. I think it breaks up the routine more than it needs to, and kind of interrupts the flow. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I understand the change. I get why they're trying to do it. They don't want so many dead handstands just kind of sitting there. But what the end effect is that it actually breaks up the routines more than they meant to. Because typically now guys are holding a 2-second handstand, a piro, another 2-second handstand, instead of just the one that they were swinging up to. So I think it's actually like backfiring the intended purpose of it. And that was a crazy catch on the Kovacs there for Evan Wilkins, pulling into what I could best describe as a baby giant, maybe a free hip, you could argue, but staying on the bar at the very least. Winds up into the dismount here and finds a nice half-half.
And I'm curious. I mean, he had a bunch of really nice in-bar work there. And we saw the Zuli Min and the one-arm giant again. So it's pretty common theme in William Mary, but I'm curious as to what the judges are going to do with that Kovacs. He doesn't need it for his start value because he also did the Tkachev. But the rule out of a Kovacs is that you have to swing through the bottom and do a giant out of it. As you mentioned, James, that was more of a baby giant, which isn't a recognized skill in NCAA men's gymnastics. So I'm interested to see if they'll even give him credit for it.
Yeah, I think in the old code, I mean, all you had to do is swing through the bottom. So you had kind of weird cases where you could do a Kovacs, catch, and peel off in the front, and it would count if you swung through the bottom. But now with the rule to giant out, that's going to be a bit of a closer call, and hopefully they give it to him, because I would argue that he did come back over the top of the bar. That is kind of a giant, but it is a bit of a gray zone, and we'll see what they do. And unlike pommel horse, where you have a moment to collect yourself, like pommel horse dismounts, you have a moment to make a decision. The judges aren't going to tell you credit or no credit as you're swinging around the bar doing some extra releases there.
Yeah, exactly. Up for the midshipmen anchoring their P-bar rotation, and the final rotation of the competition is William Champagne. Into again, that pirouette that we've seen so much of because of the code change. So nice upper bar work, really fighting for those handstands. He's got a great line and trying to show it off, but just seems to be missing a little bit of that resting position.
Oh, and that is not how you do a piro. Coming off just over the side there. And that's going to actually put a lot of pressure on Navy. We see the scores here. They only have about a 1.5 or so lead. And if William can get back up there and hit a clean rest of this set, they are looking to hopefully be able to hang on, but it is going to be really, really close now with that mistake from Navy coming in here.
And see, this is one of those moments where I certainly, as the coach and teammate, I don't want Luke Tully seeing that set. I don't want him looking at scores. Like, his job remains the same for this final set, regardless of whatever happened on P-bars. He just needs to go up there and hit what he can hit and do what he can do and let the scores fall where they may, because any mental change is, when he sees that, it's just not going to be helpful. So I hope at the least that he is in his right headspace and doing what he needs to do. But starting strong here with some really tough shoulder work on a jam and a Russian giant.
Really nice start, and that's the way to do a talk there. Finishing up right by that handstand. Coming into his release work here, nice pike to Tkachev. And like you said, I mean, this is the same set he was going to do one way or another, so he just needs to keep focused on his gymnastics and finishing up with a strong dismount here, half-half.
Just really a small step backwards. Sam Smith is waving a green flag, not the green flag we need, but a green flag nonetheless, and the team is excited. They may know where the scores are now because a lot of them are done competing, but like you said, that was the set that he was supposed to do, that he wanted to do, and the scores will fall where they may. We're still waiting on both final evals, but Evan Wilkins gets a 12, Matthew Petros gets a 12-9, William Champagne gets an 11.85, so we're going to come down to a nail biter here.
Yeah, and I think regardless of anything, I mean, that's going to still be probably looking like it'll be a Navy win, just given that it would have to be about over a 14 here for Luke. And I mean, never say never, but it doesn't seem like the math would add up there. But regardless, I would say a really stellar performance by William and Mary. I mean, with the exception of maybe just Pommel Horse, they had a really solid meet overall. Yeah, and we see the final score coming in 6/10 separating these two teams in the end. So although it is a Navy win, this is a super, super encouraging performance for William and Mary. And I would say, like you said at the beginning of the meet, they're sitting in place number 11. I think this is going to bump up their NQS, if I understand it right, and definitely going to be a good showing for them overall.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Their three-score average is sitting at a 309.93 right now, so a 311.8 is going to help them out, and about 2 points lower than their high, so much higher than their average. It certainly will help, lock them into the NCAAs as a team, and Navy's not far off either. Their NQA is a 312.2, and they got a 312.4 today, so even without potentially their full lineup with Isaiah Drake only going in two events and some falls here and there, it should probably help their score as well. So, I mean, again, great performance from both teams. It is a Navy win, excuse me. But we were really excited to bring this to you, James. Any closing comments from you?
No, I gotta say, really fantastic to be here. Great to watch some gymnastics. And now we're gonna run through these scoreboards. We see floor exercise being won by Daniel Gurvich, with William and Mary taking the next three spots there. A great showing on floor there for pretty much everyone. We had a really great way to start off the meet with some nice tumbling and some fun scales, of course.
On to pommel horse here in a second. We have the midshipman actually sweeping the podium with Jonathan as a high of 13.15, Matt Petros and Daniel Gurvich. William and Mary close fourth and fifth with Ricky and Jared in as well.
Moving on to rings, we had dominant performance by the midshipmen again with Aaron Stein and Isaiah Drake pulling up with a tie for the win on 13-7. But then some nice performances by Evan Wilkins and Mark Food to bring in a couple more scores above 13 for the tribe. So yeah, really interesting and nice work there on the rings.
Over to vault, we have Sam Lee taking the top score with a big 14-2 and the only 2.5 we saw today. And then just unbelievably well executed vaults out of Matt Petros and Riley Rose from the midshipmen. I would just again highlight the fact that their execution scores are so high, very well deserved, and taking that 2 and 3 spot.
Parallel bars, we had a really solid showing from William and Mary with the top two spots. Lead off from Zachary Patrick, put it in the bag right away with that 13-4. Evan Wilkins coming in right behind, tying for second place with Jonah Soltz on 13-3. And then a really tight pack behind them as well, with almost all of the rest of the scores falling in the 12-9 to 12-8 range.
And lastly, rounding out with high bar, we have Isaiah Drake taking the gold with a 13-3, followed by Luke Tully of William & Mary and Riley Rose from the midshipmen. Probably the most diversity we saw in the top, and again, a really exciting way to finish out this meet from both teams. But we thank you all for tuning in. Again, this was hosted by Virtius, and we hope you all have a wonderful day and weekend. Have a good one, everyone. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. We have all around as well. Luke Tully from William and Mary takes the high or first place with a 76.55. Evan Wilkins did not compete all around, so the only all arounder today was Luke Tully. And then
There's your final as we have it. 311.8 for William and Mary, 312.4 for Navy. Just squeezing out that win by about 6/10 there. in the 11th hour. So congrats to Navy, and yeah, really well done to William and Mary, putting on a great show for us today. Thanks you all for joining, and yeah, hope to see you on a stream again soon.